How's it going, everybody? Brian Alvarez and Dave Meltzer here, Wrestling Observer Radio. It is December 18, 2016, figure4online.com/wrestlingobserver.com. What a weekend, especially for Dave. Dave's been all over the world, it seems. Watching all sorts of...
Only all over California.
Pro wrestling, mixed martial arts. We got pay-per-views tomorrow. We had Fox tonight. All sorts of stuff to talk about. Dave, how you hanging on?
I'm all right. I'm okay.
Hey, you know what? I'm going to ask you a question.
I'm actually exhausted.
Are you doing better than Bernard Hopkins after he was knocked out of the ring and nearly killed, it seemed?
I don't... What happened to Bernard Hopkins?
You didn't see that?
No.
Oh, my God.
Where would I have seen Bernard Hopkins? I've been on the road constantly.
The clip's all over.
Oh, okay.
The end of the fight, he gets punched in the face, and he literally takes a bump through the ropes and lands pretty much head first on the floor.
Oh, God.
That's the end of the fight. They give him essentially a standing 10 count as he's outside the ring. It was the craziest thing.
God, Bernard Hopkins is still fighting.
Well, I think this was the end of the career, but what a way to go out. Wasn't like Faber.
No. Faber went out. Faber went out about as good as you can go out.
That's right.
It was awesome. It was really awesome watching that, the Faber thing. I mean, it was, from the last fight with Jimmy Rivera, it was really clear that it was time for Faber to go out. And, Brad Pickett was a great opponent for him to go out with because he did beat him and he should have beaten him. But it was also clear that, it's like his, even in this fight where he looked really good and everything, it was, Brad Pickett's also getting up in age and, it's just two guys who were up in age and Uriah had more going for him and is a little bigger and better wrestler. And, he got dropped once too, but, the crowd was awesome. I mean, as far as the Faber fight, it was a weird crowd because they got really spoiled by the Leslie Smith Irene Aldana fight, and then the what's the other fight with Scott Holtzman and Josh Emmett, and so then they were a tough crowd until Faber came out, and then they went that was like really awesome live. I mean, as far as just how loud they were and the last 10 seconds of the fight when they were counting down, it was really like a perfect ending. It was really, really awesome. So the whole thing with Uriah, it's like you really look back on all that. I mean, it's been a long, long career starting out. He would take fights for $200 and at the, Indian casinos casino arenas because it was banned here for years and years. So he started his career fighting in essentially unregulated kind of banned fights and go through all the thing, build up the WEC. Really important player in the history of the sport, especially for lighter weights. I mean, as far as under 155 guys, I mean, he's definitely not the greatest under 155 fighter that the company's ever had, but he's absolutely the most important up until Conor McGregor.
Well, let's start with the main event here. This was UFC on Fox 22. And in the main event of the show, Michelle Waterson, who was a champion at atomweight for Invicta, which is 105 pounds, went in there after over a year off, and she faced Paige Van Zandt and choked her out 3 minutes, 21 seconds of the first round, rear naked choke. Basically took her down, got her back, choked her completely unconscious. Paige was fighting and refused to quit. It's Sacramento. Didn't matter. Went unconscious. Big win for Michelle Waterson. Paige is a very pretty girl, but she's got a lot. I don't know the future.
She's got a lot of training she's got to do on the ground. I mean, she's only 22, so she's got time, and she is really well conditioned. And but yeah, as far as like the skill level goes, and she can wrestle pretty well, but she didn't tonight.
I think her biggest problem is she's always getting into bad positions. And against lesser opponents, she can fight her way out of it and have exciting fights and do great escapes and that sort of thing, but when you start moving further up the ladder to more skilled opponents, you fall into a bad position, you're done.
Yeah, Michelle Waterson is skilled. That's the one thing she's got. She's small. I thought that she was maybe too small for the weight division, but
not for this fight.
Yeah, she wasn't. She was still smaller than Paige, and Paige isn't big either. But it was her skill level was just much higher. I mean, I mean, I actually thought Paige was going to win the fight, but it was really clear that, it was just too good, too skilled of a fighter. When you saw like the whole thing, Michelle Waterson has been training for fighting for like 20 years, and Paige has maybe been training for, 4 years. And when they were on the ground, especially, I mean, you could really see it was a world of difference on the ground. So that's what happened. Paige, the thing with Paige is, and again, the ratings may prove this wrong, and maybe Faber was the reason for the ratings anyway, who knows? And maybe it was just because she followed Faber. I mean, but even in like her hometown, like when she came out, it's like she's a star for sure, but there's something, as far as like being like, forgetting about the fighting aspect, she didn't have the feel of a main eventer. I mean, it was really clear that the Faber fight was the real main event and should have gone on last, but she didn't. I don't know exactly how to explain it because it was in Sacramento.
I think people recognize that she's not a main event level fighter.
Yeah, that's what it is. She's not a main eventer. The last two fights, it was trying to put pretty people out there to see if it's going to do a rating, and we'll find out. But yeah, I mean, it's so clear that the main event was the Faber fight, and the deal is, just so people know, when the card was put together, Faber had not told anyone that he was retiring, so. The feeling was it's just Uriah Faber against Brad Pickett. Brad Pickett's not a main eventer. It was just Uriah getting on the card, and everyone knowing that essentially that Uriah is past his peak and everything like that. So might as well feature other people. Although I don't know how you ever would feature. I mean, I could see with Paige just because she's in the main event, but Sage Northcutt and Mickey Gall above Uriah Faber against anyone is just ridiculous. But when Uriah announced his retirement, they already had the card order in place. But sometimes these things happen, and when he was serious and he really was retiring, I think he just should have changed the card order.
Well, Uriah did do an interview, and, he was cool about it. He basically said that we got very young girls. Actually, Michelle Waterson's 30, but Paige is young. And Mickey Gall is young, and Sage Northcutt is young, and these are all the people that have to carry this company into the future. And so he said, I have no problem being main eventing or being an undercard fighter to these individuals.
I know. Well, Paige is his teammate and everything. And so, but to me, these are not fighters that are going to be carrying the company in the future. Mickey Gall, the jury's still out. Sage, was... it's another loss for Sage, and maybe in time, he'll get better, but he's not going to be a superstar right now. And Paige, the thing with Paige is Paige doesn't have to win all her fights or anything like that. I think people just accept that Paige is the thing that Paige, she'll be able to be something of a star as long as she fights exciting fights regularly. And even if she doesn't fight exciting fights all the time, I think that she can. And, of course, she has to win some fights. If you lose like 10 in a row, you're not going to be a star no matter how pretty you are. But, I don't think people, expect her to go on win streaks or anything like that. I think I think people pretty much know she's not championship level right now. And in a couple of years, will she be? Maybe. Who knows? People improve.
So Mickey Gall, in his first fight since beating CM Punk, defeated Sage Northcutt, also via submission. 140 of the second round. Sage Northcutt did not go unconscious. His back was taken, and Mickey Gall got him in a choke so easy, and Sage tapped out so easy. For the second time now. Gall took him down immediately at the beginning of the first round, smashed him on the ground for a while, went for a guillotine, didn't get it, and at that point Sage stood up, and Mickey was on his back, and Mickey is begging him to get into his guard, and Sage is begging for him to get up, and Sage starts kicking him and trash-talking him.
Yeah,
finally showed an edge. And second round, Sage landed a shot early. Gall was bleeding, but he still landed a shot of his own, dropped him, got his back, rear naked choke, and that was it. And the story of the fight, essentially, the simple version is, Mickey Gall is a really good grappler who needs to work on his stand-up, and Sage Northcutt has okay stand-up, and his grappling sucks.
I think that, I think Sage's stand-up is pretty good, but his grappling yeah, it's not UFC level yet. He definitely needs to work on that. He probably needs to be in a strong camp. There's a lot of things he needs, but his striking is pretty cool. And his striking was better than Mickey Gall's, but Mickey Gall was able to get him to the ground the whole, over and over in the fight.
This Mickey Gall guy totally understands how to get people talking about him. Does this big plug, says he's going to go to 155, going to be a champion in a few years, challenges Dan Hardy. Says if Dan Hardy wants to come back and have a marquee fight, I think I'm a marquee fight right now. Says that basically when he called out Dan Hardy, everybody booed, so then he started plugging New Jersey, and they booed even harder, and then he had a big smile as he left the cage, and I thought, this guy knows what he's doing.
Well, I think he's got some great instincts, but he made a big mistake in calling out Dan Hardy because Dan Hardy can't get licensed. So he picked like somebody that he's probably never going to fight.
Hey, at least he called somebody out. Michelle Waterson main evented Fox, and they threw her the big question, who do you want? And she did the old, whoever UFC wants to give me.
She should have just said Joanna. Because
should have. Why not?
Yeah, because with her, it comes down to Jessica Andrade and Michelle Waterson on who's going to get the next shot at Joanna. And I would say that, to me, Jessica Andrade would definitely be the favorite to do that. But Michelle Waterson got a big win on Fox. More people know her. So that could always sway. It could always be swayed in her favor. But, yes, she should have been issuing the challenge for the top people. And I don't know who Mickey Gall should have challenged because there's just like nobody. You just don't know. The top people are going to beat him. And then the middle people, it's kind of cheesy calling out like the middle people for a match, I think.
Did you see the Dominic Cruz Cody Garbrandt deal?
I did not see it. No.
My God!
I was going to watch it, but we ran out of time before the show started.
It's amazing.
I heard about it. Well,
okay. So here's what happened.
Tell me about it.
They're fighting in 13 days, and they've got a triple screen, and so John Anik is.
So John Anik's in the middle, and then you got the two.
No, he's on the far left, and these two guys are in the middle.
Okay,
so they're all in separate places.
Okay, they're not in the same room.
No, they're all in separate places. So Dominic's there, Cody Garbrandt is there, and they, like, right as this thing starts, they're just yelling at each other and talking over each other. And not only are they yelling and talking over each other, but I think it's Cody, because he's not the broadcaster. Somebody is just swearing up a storm, and so I swear the first 20, 30 seconds of this is practically silent. You just see these talking heads and their mouths are moving, and they've just bleeped everything out. And
there was a ton of swearing, I think, by Garbrandt.
Oh yeah, and so you hear nothing. You just see these guys, these non-talking heads, and finally the sound comes back, and Dominic Cruz just says, "What are you talking about?" So they keep going, even though it's a disaster. They just keep going. So Dominic's just ruining this guy. He's talking about how I bought a house off the money I made destroying all the geeks on your team. You're fresh out of high school acting all cocky. Guy's 25. He's just trashing this guy. Cody's just trying to talk over him. Dominic very calmly, after another swearing spree, just says, "There's kids watching." So they go on for about a full minute, and then finally at the very end, after all this trash talking and all this profanity and screaming at each other and burying each other, Dominic Cruz finishes with, "You look like Pee Wee Herman with that tie on." And Cody Garbrandt says, "Look at your tie!" And they cut away. And that's the end. It's so great. I wanted to see the fight, but it was so wacky, and I don't know. I just thought it was awesome. I cannot wait for that fight.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting fight. That's going to be a really, it's a very, interesting card. All three of the top matches.
Do you think they could put the unedited version online?
Yeah, they could. I don't know if they will, but they could.
May as well. It sounds like we missed a lot.
Yeah, the only thing I heard is that Cruz, talked about how, he got a house beating up Cody Garbrandt's teammates, and how, Cody Garbrandt's fight, the teammates, how they never punch with real gloves and things like that, just ripping on the team.
Oh, yeah, just buried the team. He was awesome. He's so good at this. He's so good because when he's an analyst, like he goes into analyst mode, but then when it's time to hype a fight, he totally goes into pro wrestler promo mode, and he goes back and forth so easily.
Yeah. Oh, he's a level ahead of pretty much everyone. I mean, it's like you can't go head to head with him. I mean, maybe Conor McGregor can, but for the most part, you can't go head to head with him.
Dude, I'd love to see those guys do a back and forth.
Yeah, just I mean, and you know what? It'd be a really interesting fight too, except for the size difference. It's just too much to make it really a viable fight. But if Dominic Cruz was a little bit bigger, they could. Their build-up would be actually completely incredible.
Uriah Faber and Brad Pickett, 30-26 across the board. Faber totally obliterated this guy in the first round, an easy 10-8. Maybe even, if you're really opening up your scoring, at 10-7. A miracle that Pickett survived. Faber just flattened him, destroyed him with shots from side control, mount, back, mount again, every conceivable position. Just mauled this guy. And the referee was John McCarthy, and he's just standing there ready to stop at any second, but Pickett was still alive, so he let it go. And second and third round was basically Faber beating the guy up. And the amazing thing was, Uriah Faber's 38 years old, and he expended so much energy trying to kill this guy in the first round, and he was fine for round 2 and 3. And in fact, Pickett was a guy that looked like he was running out of gas. And a great performance, a great ending to a great career. Place went crazy for him coming out. They went crazy for the fight. They went crazy for the final 15 seconds. And they went crazy when it was over.
Yeah. After his interview, during his interview, it was just wild.
I just watched this and I thought, this is the way that guys should go out of this sport. He's got money, he's got his brain, he is young, he's got... he could still fight. He could still fight for a couple more years. I mean, not championship level, but he could fight on the cards. But yeah, he decided if he can't be championship level, it's time to get out. And yeah, he did kind of say that if somebody calls me out and it's the right fight, I might consider doing it. But I'm considering myself retired. But he certainly didn't say I will absolutely under no circumstances ever fight again.
Yeah, but you never say that because what if the money offer is gigantic? At that point,
that's what he's saying.
You got it.
He's a businessman.
You got to do it. Trying to get the team ready, trying to start scouting new talent for his team and things like that. What was it like what was it like when you did the submission class with him?
God, how long ago was that?
It was probably 5-6 years ago, maybe.
It was a long time ago.
Yeah.
I mean, he was a good coach. I mean, he showed all of his. I mean, everything that you see Faber do in terms of his grappling. I mean, it was essentially all about his guillotine. And I will never forget, he showed his guillotine, and the pressure is right across the neck. And I remember asking him something like, is this like an air choke or is this a blood choke? And his exact words were, the guy should feel like he's dying. I thought, wow, okay. Yeah, he's good.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to think. I asked him what he was going to do next. And, aside from that, maybe some real estate. He's talking about building a bigger gym, I think. Not a whole lot else. He's got like some franchise, like some, like a food place that he's going to expand to a second location. So he's got, and training Cody Garbrandt, who, essentially, the training for Cody Garbrandt's just about over. He's got one more week. He's going to have one more hard week, and then that will be it for him. Going into the Cruz fight. But yeah, that's an interesting fight. The Velasquez and Verdum fight's interesting, and Ronda's fight's super interesting. So Ronda is right about 140 pounds right now, and has been through most of this camp. She's a lot smaller. She is the most fit that she has ever been as a fighter. But, that's, if mentally she's not recovered from the loss, that may not do her good. And, Jermaine is a really strong fighter and has been training, on Ronda's strengths, on how to negate her strengths. And she's a better stand-up fighter, I think, than Ronda. Or maybe not. I mean, we'll find out. But, yeah, it's,
The opener, Alan Juban and Mike Perry, unanimous decision. This Perry guy's a great heel, just a loud, obnoxious kind of guy. Had decent stand-up, but mostly just kind of stood there, took shots, trying to swing for a one-punch knockout that he never got. And G-1 landed a lot of shots. Perry had his hands down, totally rocked him in the second, and was taking him apart as Perry got tired in the third. 29-28, 30-27, 30-27 were the scores.
Yeah, so Mike Perry's got great power, but if you can't hit someone, the power gets completely negated, and that was kind of the story of this fight. I mean, he did hit him sometimes, but not the really solid shots that, especially to the head that he's done in the past. So G-1 fought like a really good kickboxing style fight. It was the right fight to fight. Mike Perry, yeah.
All right, take us through this undercard.
Yeah, so I didn't see the whole undercard, but I did see. Did you see the second fight?
Oh, I sure did.
Yeah, actually, you know what? The Leslie Smith fight was actually better. So I got because I hit a lot of traffic leaving, and I got here from Reseda. So look at the map. It was a long day. So anyway, I got there. That's another problem. But I got there essentially because of traffic. I didn't see the first three fights, and then the Leslie Smith fight. I got there in the third round, and the place is just going crazy in this Leslie Smith fight with Irene Aldana, and so it looked pretty good. And then I sat it was Josh Emmett from Sacramento against Scott Holtzman, and this fight was freaking awesome.
This fight, I don't know if you could call it like a great fight. I mean, what it was like a video game fight. These two guys just running and jumping and spinning and I mean, it was a fight. I mean, they were not in there like having a technical stand-up grappling battle. I mean, they were in there they were throwing everything they could possibly think of for 3 full rounds. It was crazy. Yeah, but it was just like they were nailing each other and, all kinds of different techniques. And the crowd was going completely nuts, partially because Josh is from Sacramento and Team Alpha Male. So, you had that, but the crowd was so loud. And then I got home and watched the Leslie Smith fight, and that was a great fight too. So you had 2 great fights to start the television version of the show. These were easily the 2 best fights on the card, and almost not quite, there was nothing the level of the Doo Ho Choi fight. I mean, that's like a once a year or twice a year fight, but maybe once a year even. But I mean, these fights were like equivalent of the Cerrone fight with Matt Brown but in both cases without the great knockout finish that the Cerrone fight had. So these were 2 really strong fights. And then we had Alex Morono and James Mutasri, which was also a good fight, not as good as the previous 2. And the people started booing it. It's like they just got so spoiled by those 2 fights that they were booing this fight and going like, this is ridiculous. I mean, it's like, it's one thing to be quiet, but to boo this fight, it's just ridiculous. So then the crowd ended up paying their penance for booing a good fight, because after that, Colby Covington and Brian Barberina was next, and Colby Covington just out-wrestled him. So anyway, as far as Josh and, Leslie Smith won the decision over Irene Aldana. And it was a pretty close fight. I do think Leslie Smith deserved to win. Leslie Smith, by the way, is a good friend of Mick Foley's. But, and then Josh Emmett and Holtzman, it seemed to me that like Emmett was getting tired, but then he still won the third round, when it looked like, that he may be losing the fight. But so he kind of came on strong with, takedowns and things like that. A lot of takedowns in round 3 to win it. So Alex Morono and James Mutasri, that was a similar thing where you're kind of watching the fight. Mutasri won the first round, and then and he seemed like he was the better fighter, but Morono just kept pushing, and kind of I feel wanted it more. Took round 2 and 3, so he got it. Then we had Colby Covington and Brian Barberina, as I said. So this fight was Colby Covington mostly just out wrestling Barberina for 3 rounds. Barberina's the guy who Sage Northcutt beat. And it's like Covington is one of these guys who's like a very good wrestler, and he's going to be able to beat
the non-top guys because of his wrestling, but when you go against the top guys, he's going to have to do more. But he's, you can tell he's an athlete, and I mean, a real good athlete. I mean, he was a college wrestling champion, I think, at the Division II level, top guy in the Division II level. So, that's what kind of happened there. And Covington fought this fight 4 weeks ago. He tore his MCL, so he did not train in the last 4 weeks, and still came out and just was able to get his wrestling and win the fight. Then we had Mizuto Hirota and Cole Miller, which was just boring, just so completely boring. Mizuto Hirota, I think, won. Well, it's 30-26, 30-27, 30-27. And, just was getting the takedowns. I mean, that's what... And this was, just a boring fight. And then Henrique, because it's Brazilian, Henrique da Silva, against Paul Clegg. Paul Clegg is from, I believe he's an England guy. He's a UK guy, I believe. But anyway, he won with a armbar, I believe. It was an armbar after a triangle, and it was a good finish. Craig is what's his record? He's now 9-0, and I believe 8 of those wins are like by submission, and almost all of them quick. So this one was. The armbar was in the second round, so it was a pretty decent fight.
All right, so what's going on with Cyborg?
Nothing. She's just complaining. That's the deal. She's just complaining and about not getting the fight, and it's just, what can you say? I mean, she signed a contract, and they gave her a nutritionist and everything because she promised she would get to 135, and she never, was what it is. I mean, they signed her because of the whole thing. They wanted her to fight Ronda, and she's just too big for that. So, I mean, she'll probably get the winner of the Holly Holm fight with Jermaine Durandamy.
Probably.
Yeah, I mean, if Holly Holm wins and Ronda wins, I mean, they got to do Ronda and Holly Holm. It's so much of a bigger money fight, but both of those things have to happen.
I'm saying probably in the sense that is she going to be able to get to 145? Isn't that now the new thing? She's too big now for 145.
She said she could get there by March, and if she's going to fight the winner, that fight's February 11th. So we're talking about. She's probably not going to be fighting until July. Until the July show, maybe, is when that match would happen. If Ronda loses, and then whoever wins the championship would then defend. That would that's kind of like the timetable.
All right, let's move to pro wrestling here. Talk about the PWG show, the Mystery Vortex, all mystery matches last night. How was the show?
Wasn't good as tonight's show. I mean, of all the PWG shows I've been to, this was the least special. It was, I mean, like, everything underneath was good, but it felt like just another show. Like, it was like a WWE show or something like that. I mean, it was probably, as far as match quality went, WWE pay-per-view caliber. A normal one where you get, a bunch of decent to good matches, and then you get 2 really strong matches. And maybe the 2 strong matches were stronger than WWE, but the Marty Scurll match with Zack Sabre Jr., which went like 37.5 minutes, was Zack won by submission. That match was excellent match, just wonderful technical match, going back and forth, and some brawling, real stiff brawling as well, but mostly just great technical wrestling back and forth. And the one thing from being real up close at ringside is that you really see, Zack Sabre, when it comes to selling, is just phenomenal. I mean, as far as just like everything that took any kind of a beating during the fight, he's selling. I mean, but he's not exaggerated selling. It's like he's, he would be like kind of twisting his neck because the neck was worked on, kind of like manipulating his fingers or something because, of course, Marty Scurll does the broken finger gimmick. And so he would be like, it wasn't like exaggerated pro wrestling oversell, but everything that happened, in the later stages of the match, he was selling, all of that, everything that had happened up to that point. So, so he'll defend against Chuck Taylor, who beat Adam Cole. That would be on the next show, which may be February 17th. I don't know. But the other good one was the Young Bucks against Jeff Cobb and Matt Riddle. And so Matt Riddle comes out first, and everyone in the building is figuring that Jeff Cobb's going to come out next. And he does. So everyone's saying it's going to be, and they're hot for that. And then the Bucks come out, and it's like, it's a tag team match, non-title. Cobb and, Cobb and Matt Riddle won. And Matt Riddle, I mean, it's like, I just saw Matt Riddle have this phenomenal match with Will Ospreay, so I know how good Matt Riddle is. But again, the last time I saw him live would have been the end of August, and he's considerably better now. The guy just keeps improving. So, so the Bucks lost a non-title match, likely to set up a championship match. And very, very different from a normal Young Bucks match. I mean, this was, just them, the baby faces getting the early shine, then the heels take over, and then you kind of like work to the finish. It's very traditional as opposed to like the really just bang, 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 all kinds of big moves, stuff that they do. I mean, everybody was selling a lot more, and it was an excellent match. So I guess it was, it's a good thing.
Any other notes from the show?
It's quite a few, actually. So Matt Sydal was back, and so he fought Pete Dunne. And the thing with that was there were just so many jokes being told about, him being in prison and everything like that, or, being in the detention center. Technically, he was in the Osaka detention center. And, like, they announced him as, like, from St. Louis, Missouri, and most recently in the Osaka detention center. And just, there was a lot of comedy involved. Matt, he's so good at certain things, and he certainly showed flashes of that. Just great movement and everything like that in the match. Just great moves, kind of like, done in a way that most people couldn't do him. But, he's not 100%. And he even after said that it's like, you got to get in wrestling shape. And this was his first time in a match since September. So he certainly is not overweight, and he certainly did not look he doesn't look out of shape, but I think he pretty much said that he wasn't in his top wrestling shape or anything like that. I'm trying to think what other stuff. Let me just get my notes on the show. Candice LeRae and Trent Beretta opened, and Trent won. And Candice is she's a really good seller and babyface, just a sympathy babyface. And Trent was pretty good as like the guy who doesn't want to be wrestling this woman, just doesn't want to do it, just trying to just get this thing over with, and he ended up winning. And but for that type of a match, they were really good. And then ACH and Trevor Lee, which is a little disappointing. Not bad, but I mean nothing's bad. Trevor Lee won with a Fisherman Buster, and then Sydal, had his match with Pete Dunne, and then it was Chris Hero and JT Dunne against Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly, which was really a long match, like 27 minutes, and probably just, I don't know, something, it was like good, but it wasn't great. And so, I mean, that's the basic gist of that. And then what was the other one? So, and number one contender where Chuck Taylor got the next title shot by beating Adam Cole. The crowd was also off. they usually have like tremendous crowd reactions and everything, and really hot crowds. And this crowd, they were hot in certain spots, but overall they were not that hot. So I know one of my friends who was at the show, mentioned that NXT, crowd, the NXT crowd in Riverside, which is a couple hours away from Reseda, that crowd was actually more lively than the Reseda crowd, which is weird because you just don't expect them to. They're always so hot for everything, but and they're going to be doing a let's see, was it a 4-way tournament or something? No, that was something else. So it's nothing to do with that. But yeah, the just the Bucks did like that more traditional match and everything like that than a lot of the stuff they've been doing, but still really good. And Riddle and Cobb both, actually Cobb as well as Riddle, they've improved so much. And they both should be superstars. I know that Regal, now I know that WWE is more interested in Riddle now than they were before. And of course, so with Hero, I mean, nothing's different than from what we talked about on Wednesday. He's awaiting the results of his medicals, and he kind of like addressed it and just said, I know everybody wants to, there's an elephant in the room, and he goes, and I'm the elephant. And he just goes, he wasn't happy that the story got out. I mean, it's not inaccurate, but his thing was I haven't signed the contract. But, again, they're offering him the contract pending his passing of all of his medicals. And he's just like, I didn't want to be like Willie Mack, who Willie Mack, as I recall, actually signed his contract. And then they came back and cut him because, there was something to do with something in his medicals or something that and he just goes like, I didn't want to be like that. So that's why he didn't want people to know that he was, essentially almost gone, pending everything like that.
Thursday, we had TNA Total Nonstop Deletion. A lot of people talking about it. Didn't do a blow a number on Pop TV.
No, I mean, it's so the thing with the number disappointed me. The reaction that I heard to the show is like a lot of people hated it and a lot of people loved it. I really liked it, but it's like it's tons of inside humor that was actually like kind of cute. And if you watch it for like weird irony and weird entertainment, the show was absolutely great. But a lot of people watch wrestling shows to see like wrestling shows. And if those people probably weren't going to last 2 hours with that show. I mean, it's one thing to do a 20-minute sketch on a wrestling show. This is like nothing other than, well, I mean, they were in a ring and they did have matches, but it was all gimmicky and all that. And so that was the thing. Like Matt's son wrestles and against I think it was
Spud. He got his first ever win over Rockstar Spud.
Yeah. When Spud got tasered by Senior Benjamin. And then Bobby Lashley and Eddie Edwards were fighting until the end of time. And the show just went off the air. And,
they were blown up by a volcano eruption.
Yeah. They were doing like that Inoki and Masa Saito jungle death match type of match. But yes. Much better than that. And, I mean, it's hard to keep people for 2 hours doing a show like that, but I think that they did reasonably well in keeping them. But with all that publicity going in, they should have done a much bigger number than they did.
Mick Foley is out until the end of the year.
Yeah, so he stayed this week because he wanted to give Sami Zayn that rub.
But now they have no follow-up.
Yeah, but it's all caught up. I mean, it's like there wasn't anything, but yeah, he's taking time off, and I guess he's going to be back January 2nd. But even if he is, he's probably going to have to take time off for surgery soon enough afterwards too. So he's all that's hip.
Oh, hip surgery, yeah.
Hip replacement surgery, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So he may be back. Like, he's not going to be back until January 2nd, I believe. And then he'll be back on January 2nd. But however long he's back will probably not be that long. And then he'll be gone for, I mean, it's going to be a while recovering from the hip replacement.
There have been a lot of rumors about this. You've got a note here, G-1 LA. Yeah,
actually Long Beach. They have not officially made the announcement, but it may be one night, but there's a lot of talk of doing 2 nights in the same place. And then, flying everyone back to Japan after those 2 nights are over.
So they would be actually running 2 nights of the G1 tournament in the U.S. in Long Beach.
In Long Beach, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's and the first night, it'd be the first 2 nights of the tour. And the first night is traditionally, one of the great nights. I don't think that they're gonna change what they do, just because I don't know. So yeah, I think something interesting on that is that I wonder who's going to main event the pay-per-view tomorrow.
The WWE?
Yeah, because at this point, when I'm thinking about what's the most important match, I really think it's the Iron Man match. I mean, it's not like before where, there's only one chance. I was against them main eventing that show because it wasn't built up, and it could have been built up as the first time the women ever main evented. But now that it's already done and there's no equity in anything, I just feel like that's really the main event on the show. I don't know that it's going to go on last.
I would bet for sure. Well, I shouldn't say for sure.
I think a lot also depends. It doesn't really matter. It's got to be one of those two, and maybe the best one depends on the finish. But I don't know that. If Sasha Banks is winning, they definitely should go on last. If she's not, then I don't know, because I can't imagine. I shouldn't say I can't imagine, because anything's possible, but the way that they were structuring everything, if Roman Reigns beats Kevin Owens now for the championship, it's like, I don't know, it's almost like the wrong show to, it's not almost like, it is the wrong show to do it. Plus, I know they want the, coronation on a big show, so maybe you do something like a finish to build to the Rumble, and then he wins then he wins the title at the Rumble. Because I don't know if that you can quite go to Mania with it, but you could, I guess, if you had to. But the Mania, well, it doesn't matter whether it's the Mania or San Antonio. If he wins, he's going to get really heavily booed. So it's not like you're going to have that great finish where the babyface prevails and everything on a big show.
It just seems like they spend so much time building up that Charlotte is undefeated on pay-per-view to just beat her on pay-per-view.
Yeah,
on this show.
I think Charlotte's winning because I think that she's going to win and start working with Bayley. That's what it looks like on TV. This is where they're going. So yeah, it makes sense for Charlotte to then win.
I just feel that after having put the women on in the main event spot on the pay-per-view, now they delivered great on Raw, but on the pay-per-view, I thought that match was a big disappointment.
The first one, yeah.
And I think that because of that, I think that they're going to put the Roman Reigns Kevin Owens match on last this time.
They very well may. I actually, if I was going to bet, I would bet that that's what they would do too. But there is that that thing. It isn't, and it's also an Iron Man match, so it's like 30 minutes. That's that one's going to be it's going to be tough for them because everyone knows that it's like everyone's going to know that the first 27 minutes don't count.
Everyone may know that, well, we'll see what happens tomorrow. You know what they do in WWE Iron Man matches?
What do they do?
They almost always have overtime.
Well, they could have an overtime. That's fine. But the thing is everyone knows that the first 28 minutes, it's not the finish no matter what they do.
No. So they'll probably have finished 2 minutes in and then 5 minutes in. I picture them either having a ton of falls or no falls.
Well, I think that should be somewhere in the middle. I don't think that if they do more than, I think you could do 6. But
that's still a lot of falls in 30 minutes.
Yeah,
it's a fall every 5 minutes.
Yeah, I think you could do 6. You could do 4. if you're gonna go even, or you can go, you can win 2-1, you can win 3-2, however that's going to go, or you can tie and go into overtime. It could be anything like that. I mean, any more than 6 would be overkill, but I could see 6.
Now, the road to the Tokyo Dome is complete, and I think that the biggest news of anything that happened this weekend in New Japan is the announcement that Hiroshi Tanahashi is getting rid of his music.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. Yep. Can you imagine?
No, I can't imagine.
It's freaking
why?
Iconic music. I think he just feels that it's run its course and it's time to be new. It's time to be different.
Man.
Did you hear the stuff that Katani said about WWE and Vince McMahon and everything?
You're either with him or against him now.
Yeah, it was more than that, but he feels that they're going to be in trouble in a couple of years financially because they're not going to be able to get the TV money anywhere near that they get now, and they need that money because of the way their company's structured. And that's his feeling. I think he's wrong if he thinks that the TV thing's going to collapse.
Well, I think even if the TV thing does collapse, I mean, at least once a week on this show, we talk about excessive costs on the WWE network. I mean, there's so many ways they could cut costs if they don't make as much money in the next television deal. It's not like if they get a worse television deal or the same television deal, they're going to be trapped in a money-losing spiral.
No, not at all. Not at all. With the kind of money that they make on television, they're pretty much guaranteed to be profitable unless they just, get completely stupid and people stop going to the shows. And they've never come anywhere close to that. I mean, it's never been, they're everything, attendance is it's certainly not good right now, but it's like what you would call, low end average. It's not like it's maybe, yeah. I mean, no, it's been worse. It's been worse at other times. The SmackDown tour is definitely having trouble. So, I'm trying to think what else.
Well, any notes from the weekend show?
The New Japan? I didn't see the shows, but Toru Yano's back. And Toru Yano and Ishii are going to make the tag team title into a 3-way. So it's going to be Tama Tonga and Tangaloa and Makabe and Hanma getting a shot, which makes sense since they won the tournament. And then the third team would be Ishii and Yano, which is an odd couple team for sure. So yeah, that's the thing.
Samoa Joe is hurt.
Samoa Joe, yeah, don't know the injury, but he missed the last 2 nights, so it could be anything. And Nakamura's still not doing a whole lot either, so I think he's resting up as well. But still, he's still making all of his cities. Joe, I guess Joe, you could say, is making the cities, but he's not wrestling on the shows.
And finally, in terms of news today, the announcement of the UK Championship, the tournament is already sold out. Any new news notes, I guess, on this tournament? No,
I mean, they really pushed the idea that we're not doing this to compete with, the ITV thing, but everyone kind of knows that, they said we were planning this before we even knew about it. This has been on the, and I mean, it's been.
It seems to me like they're going to do this tournament, and right now ITV has not been picked up as a television show or the World of Sport. If it does get picked up as a television show, then I fully expect that WWE is just probably going to be trying to do a weekly television show from the UK on the network.
Yeah, but I'm not sure exactly what the only advantage I guess that has is if they have something in place and they start signing people, the people know that, hey, we can be on the WWE network and and all that. But it's like, why would that? The only thing where it would hurt ITV is that they're going to sign up a lot of guys that maybe ITV would use. But the key guys that ITV featured on its first show, and there weren't a lot of them, they're all signed with ITV. None of them are going to be on this thing, although I guess some of them might want to be. And then I don't know what's going to happen with some of the other UK wrestlers. The cream of the crop of the UK, WWE didn't get hardly any of them. And they got Pete Dunne, who's good, and I'm trying to remember who the other, Tyler Bate and Trent Seven. But there's only of the top guys in England, they got maybe 4, and the other promotions still have a lot more. of that, like the Ospreys and things like that. But them being there, I think will get, everyone in the UK, all of those guys kind of like thinking, well, what if I go there?
Yeah, but what's interesting about it is WWE is like a carrot where the guys can think, you know what, maybe if I go to WWE's promotion, someday I may get to the regular NXT, and then the main roster, I'll be a WWE superstar. But really, what we're actually talking about at the beginning is they would be on NXT on the WWE network, as opposed to World of Sport on ITV, which would be a ton of exposure.
Well, exposure-wise, yeah. But if your goal in life, since you've grown up, is to wrestle in the WWE, that's, IWA is not the WWE.
No, of course not. But it is interesting. Of the two, the one with the real exposure is ITV.
Yeah, tons more. But we don't know what's going to be. We don't know what's going to be picked up until the ratings come in for New Year's Eve, and then they can figure out where they're going from there. But I know that. It's not official or anything, but they are looking at February dates. Is something that may be the next set of tapings.
All right, everybody. On that note, we're going to wrap it up. Dave and I are going to be back tomorrow with more. We're going to be here after the WWE pay-per-view.
What month did I just say? My brain is so fried right now.
You said February.
Yeah, okay, good. Because I am so fried. I got no sleep last night, and it's late now, and all that. So
that's why we're wrapping it up here. But we will be back tomorrow.